There was once a land where the weather was very, very strange. There were awful heat waves in some parts, and in others terrible storms and floods. Scientists said it was being caused by too much CO2, which went up into the sky when the grown-ups used energy. They said the CO2 was getting dangerous. Its effects were happening faster than they had thought. Some places could even disappear under the sea, and it was the children of the land who'd have to live with the horrible consequences. The grown-ups realized they had to do something. They discovered that over 40% of the CO2 was coming from ordinary everyday things like keeping houses warm and driving cars, which meant if they made less CO2, maybe they could save the land for the children.
Is there a happy ending?
It's up to us how the story ends. See what you can do. Search online for ACT on CO2.
That's the type of brainwashing going on everywhere. Puppy dogs grounding. Teaching children if it gets hot, if it gets cold, if there's any seasonal change, that's abnormal. But don't worry, the global government's going to save you. The bad grown-ups, they create 40% of the CO2. The UN's own cooked books and the big panel on climate change they put out 2 years ago, most of the scientists have gone public saying it's a fraud that we're even involved, says that 3% of the increase in CO2 is man-made. Ladies and gentlemen, plants breathe it. Humans exhale it. The evil climate monster that they show in the children's book that they put on television, talking to the public like we're children, they have to show a big carbon monster up in the sky about to kill everybody. They don't tell you it's humans exhaling it. I mean, it's such a giant fraud. It's just so massive. And right here on page 35 of the treaty, it says provide incentives, that means taxes, to adaptation through legislative changes in the nations, removal of barriers, getting rid of sovereignty, involving women as active participants, making it a woman against the men thing, and other supportive approaches. Minimize incentives that encourage maladaptation, means tax you if you don't do what they say. Reduce perverse incentives, that encourage unsustainable land use and reduce negative economic incentives. Tax breaks. It says tax breaks for vulnerable activities. So it's and so they're announcing sheep, cows, your dog, everything to be taxed, bureaucrats in your life, a national ID card that registers what you buy and sell, and putting you on ration cards. You can Google that. British government calls for rationing. British government calls for reducing England's population from 60 million to 30 million. That's the London Guardian. In fact, people won't believe that. Show them right now. Headline, Environment Minister says cut population by half. And you'll see articles in Canada, Australia, and England, all with their environment ministers saying the same thing. Now, in the UN documents, it says 80% reduction in population. In the public statements, it's only half. We got to get rid of humans. All the headlines about babies are bad for environment. Babies are carbon blobs. See, they're teaching the kids, that we're going to stop the carbon monsters, but the government says the babies are the carbon monsters. And then on Australian TV, they have this cartoon where it shows how the children need to commit suicide. In fact, there was the headline. UK population must fall to 30 million, says head environmental minister. One of Gordon Brown's leading green advisors is to warn Britain must dramatically reduce its population if it's to build a sustainable society. It's not enough to him, David Miliband, that the West already, for every 2 adults, only has 1.3 children and is dying. He wants it cut more. Let me remember the exact headline of the cartoons in Australia. Children taught to commit suicide by environmental cartoon. And then it shows bloody animals in pools of blood for little kids and says, you're killing animals if you don't die. Another headline was, carbon calculator teaches kids when to die. Carbon calculator teaches kids when to die. Search that term. That'll bring it up for you. This is the sickness of these people. They're taking our normal survival instinct and saying by killing yourself, by not having children, by dying, you save the earth. And then they write in Eco-Science and all their other major textbooks, this written by the White House Science Czar, that they want to put sterilants in our water to sterilize us. Global warming, ABC website tells kids when they should die. News.com.au. We archived it at Infowars.com. Blow up that screenshot. It shows bloody dead pigs in a slaughterhouse and says, if you don't commit suicide, you're killing animals. This is what you let your children watch. This is what you put up with. They showed a drowning dog in that last video we showed and said, you're going to drown if you don't do this. You should die at what age? Based on the emissions from your greenhouse usage, you used up your share of the planet by the time you were 1.2 years old. And it tells you that you're killing animals, because they know little kids love animals, if you don't kill yourself. And they've had some little kids go kill themselves after this. They're teaching. Rob Jacobson, a month ago, was at Whole Foods downtown Austin, where he went to get lunch. He knows the girl there. He shops there a few times a week. He walks up buying me a copy of The Case for Killing Granny with the cover of Newsweek or Time. We'll have to Google that. I think it was Newsweek. Google The Case for Killing Granny. I think it was Newsweek. And it showed the cord pulled out, and she's dead. And it said euthanasia's good, killing granny's good, it's good. And the girl said, ooh, what's that? And he said, oh, it's teaching us to kill ourselves. It's eugenics. And she said, yeah, I think I should die. And he said, are you happy? Do you like your life? Yeah, but there are too many people. And he said, yeah, but they'll want to kill you. And then she said, well, I'm ready to die. The Case for Killing Granny, Newsweek. There it is. And they go on to say, to save the environment, we got to kill Granny. Now, the private banking cartel run by Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan and Bank of England openly finances all of this, and they'll decide what resources you get. They'll decide whether you can have a business or a factory. They're going to put all these taxes on you, and they're going to get rid of your tax breaks. I just covered that. Let's go to the next tax document, page 43. Page 43. Providing financial support shall be additional to developed countries. That means loans to them at 30% interest with our money if they get rid of their other industries. Mandatory contributions from developed countries, parties, and other developed parties include in the annex. And then it goes into all the taxes. Taxes on carbon-intensive products and services from ANNEX parties. Only first world nations have to make that tax payment. Zoom in on this. This is page 43. Now, only first world nations have to pay that particular carbon tax. All industry that hasn't left will go to the third world where they don't have those restrictions, which will deindustrialize us further, which is stated. In fact, will you get Aaron in here? He was reading Maurice Strong and David Rockefeller quotes on Friday's show where they said in the 70s, we're going to destroy our industry with a carbon tax to bring in total control. Certain nations will only be able to do certain things, so everyone will be dependent on the globalist. They will sit above the nation states, so no nation state is self-sufficient, so they control it. Come on in here, Aaron. Aaron, I meant to get that article you wrote that had the footnotes and the links on the collapse of Detroit, where you had all the globalist quotes about how they were going to use fake environmentalism to wreck the economy. The Maurice Strong quotes, the Richard N. Haas quotes. Will you print that and run in here with them? Good job. Thank you. The problem is we got too much evidence here. Taxes on carbon-intensive products and services. Shares of proceeds of the clean development mechanism between members of the group. It says you have to hire, even locally, risk management officials to come in and do an environmental assessment before you engage in any business activities. That's on page 44. I mean, my God, ladies and gentlemen, just to read this and to know it's coming up in 35 days. Let's go to page 64 here. I mean, this is just incredible. Page 64. Progressive reduction or phasing out of market imperfections. See, this global regulator will do this. They will decide financial incentives, tax and duty exemptions and subsidies in all greenhouse gas emitting sectors that run counter to the objective of the convention and application of market instruments. That's plain English. If you don't do what they say, they slap bigger and bigger taxes, and they selectively decide, just like the 14,000 plus pages of NAFTA and GATT, which was not free and open trade. It was good old boy select deals. Page 83. This is just the tax sections.